Welcome to Joy of the Hang. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found us. If you're a loyal listener, welcome back. You already know this is where connection and conversation come alive. If you're loving what we share, don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And for all the behind the scenes fun and fashion, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today's episode is extra special and deeply personal. I'm joined by one of my best friends, Maria Richardson. We're chatting the way best friends do about both our messes and our milestones. Together, we'll dive into how meditation, mindfulness, and manifesting has helped to shape our lives. This episode is brave, vulnerable, and one you'll want to share with your own bestie. So let's hang with my dear friend, Maria. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you. All my little hairs are standing up. I'm getting tingly.
Maria is joining me all the way from Panama.
Hello.
We met. Oh my
Crazy.
God. I know, right? How many years have we known each other? Let's take us
Since
back.
2003.
You're the one with the
Tw-
better memory. 22 years.
22 years. Three. When I
So
moved to
when
Maine, and then June started that book club, and our whole neighborhood became like a family. It was amazing. Yeah.
when I say that we've been through each other's messes and milestones, most of those messes and milestones come in midlife, and that was the stage of life that we really connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the tough times. I mean, through the good times, obviously, but through the tough times, I think we were there for each other unconditionally.
Yeah.
You know, it just was, we just were there for each other. Yeah, I
And
was recalling something about, like, for me, it was just being there for you in, like, whatever crisis you were going through or chaos. It was just my intuition, my gut always just said, I want to be there for her. I want to be there as a support, as to listen to, as a friend, as sister, whatever, but I want to be there. And that was always my gut feeling, and it has always been my gut feeling with you, just
yeah.
being there.
And same. I mean, it's such a special time of our lives. And let's go back to the book club that brought us all together. We started, June and I, well, for me, and I write about it in my new book.
I love that.
Can
I
you
love it.
believe?
I love
Ah!
it. I love it.
So we started the Poplar Ridge Book Club, and it was out of a need for both of us to, I think for me, it was, I was a stay-at-home mom. I can't remember if I started when I was a stay-at-home mom or when I was working, but either way, I know I needed some adult conversation in my life that was outside of work and children. So that's what it was born out of. And June had the same need. So we kind of were like, all right, let's just start a book club. And I think she went around and put invitations maybe in people's mailboxes, right?
She
Is that
did.
how it was?
She
Yeah.
did. I had literally just moved there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
I
we
still
didn't have,
remember what I wore the first book club, because I had just moved to Maine with only knowing one person and moving into a neighborhood, and literally like 3 weeks later I see this pamphlet and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I get to meet like a whole bunch of people at once. And I remember what I wore. I remember the book we read. I remember everything about that first one, which really just opened up our world,
oh my God. I mean,
to like girl power.
that small act of connection just grew into something that I don't think any of us could have realized it was going to turn into, you know? And so it started, yeah. So we met at, I think June hosted the first one,
The Da Vinci
and
Code.
the Da Vinci Code was the first book. I remember that clearly. I don't remember what I wore, but I do remember the book. And we were all very nervous to meet one another, right? Do you
Yeah.
remember who were the OG? I can't even remember all the, like, I think it was you, Michelle, June, myself,
Mary, Trish,
Mary,
Elizabeth,
Cindy,
Cindy,
maybe.
Michelle,
Yeah.
Marilyn. There were a lot of people that came in and out of the book club throughout the
Right.
years because so many people moved on and off.
Diana, I
But
think Diana was there. She was one
Diana
of the first.
Scannell.
Yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
Julie was there yet. I don't think Laureen was there yet. I don't think she was. But anyway, we all came together to discuss a book, but more importantly, to get to know each other. And we were all going through the same season of life. And we all had young children at home, and we were all new to the neighborhood because the neighborhood itself was fairly new. So yeah, it became a lifeline, really.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was
It was
beautiful.
beautiful. It
Yeah.
was really special. We were so lucky to have each other. So that group stayed together for 13 years. Isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, COVID kind of messed everything up, and we started trying to do it like over Zoom, and then it just sort of fizzled out
yeah.
through COVID. I think a lot of people were going through their own stuff, and it just sort of
Well,
dwindled.
I left long before COVID because I got divorced and moved out of the neighborhood. I think I was the first one to break away, or one of the first, unfortunately, sadly. But anyway, then we did our happy hours, which I
And
also
we
talk
did our
about.
happy hours. Yes, we got to talk about our happy hours. That was fun.
Was that not fun? I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell our listeners about our happy hours. What did we do? How did we start it?
So I think we just started meeting for happy hour just for the heck of it. There were like 4 or 5 of us. And then in like the first or second meeting, we're like, why don't we meet for happy hour every Wednesday and we'll go to a different place based on the alphabet. And so we literally did every Wednesday based on the alphabet. We would go to one place called whatever, A, whatever. Then we went
Yeah.
to, I can't even remember the B's. I had them all written down, but somehow they disappeared from my phone. But we finished. We did the whole alphabet in a couple of years, and that was really, really fun. It was really
Zeppelin
fun.
was our last one. I think the Armory was the first for the A.
Yes, that sounds about right.
I think
Yeah.
the Armory
Yeah,
was first. Yeah, but anyway, it was a lot of fun.
it was. It was. And
It
yeah,
was a
we had a
great
blast. Always an
but
adventure.
always an adventure. So we'll come back to our messes and our milestones because we did we had a lot of them, but let's talk about meditation and how that plays a role in your life.
Meditation for me, it quiets the mind. It quiets the mind. So whatever kind of meditation I do, and sometimes I choose different ones, manifestation meditations or calming the mind meditations or empowerment meditations. Sometimes I just listen to frequency and just sleep with that all night. Sometimes I used to, I did affirmations. I listened to an affirmation, which, because whatever you're listening to while you're sleeping, it enters your subconscious without you even having to do any work. But the meditations for me just calmed my mind. It stopped me from overthinking and it calmed my breath because you've got to be able to breathe during a meditation. And these are guided meditations. So you're told, it's like breathe deep, let it go. And for me, for meditation, which I actually started with you in the first meditation class after my big chaos that happened with my ex-husband with his illness, for me, it was learning that when we meditate, while we're breathing and we're concentrating so much on our breath going in and out, it's really, really hard to think about anything else. When you're concentrating on, okay, like concentrate, count 4 or count 6,
Yeah.
it's really, really hard to think about something else. And when you do think about something else, the way it was described in that first class that we went to about meditation, which was like 15 years ago, I think, it was like, think of your thoughts as like little clouds that are kind of coming through. And it's like, oh, here comes a thought. I got to go get apple juice at the store or whatever. Nope, nope, nope. That cloud's gone. Well, here comes another one. Oh, I got to go pick up Jack at 2 o'clock. Nope, nope, that's gone too. But it's like these little clouds that just kind of come by. You feel them coming. It's like, go back to the breath. Go back to the breath. So that little cloud's gone, go back to the breath. That little cloud's gone, go back to the breath. And you do it so often that it really becomes a habit. It becomes
Mm.
a ritual, it becomes something that becomes natural. And I remember starting that class with meditation where it was like, and we had like sirens. It was on a main road where we had sirens and traffic and all that kind of stuff. And so we did have a lot of stuff. It's like, oh, here comes
Uh-huh.
the siren. No, don't concentrate on the, like, just let it go.
Mm.
And then I started maybe with 3 minutes, 5 minutes. That's how I share my meditation, where I encourage people to meditate. You don't have to learn how to meditate immediately. Like, start out just very, very, just a few minutes. And then you can do an hour meditation or an hour and a half meditation if you wanted to. But start out very, very 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, however long. And they can be really fun. They can be really fun and take us to, a different place in our minds where we start to think about other things that we want to create or positive things. But you get out of that constant loop of that overthinking. And that's what meditation for me does. It calms me down, it grounds me, and yeah, I meditate a lot. I meditate a lot. Every morning I meditate. I joined a meditation club. At night I meditate. Sometimes I do a meditation during the day if I feel like I just need a little bit of grounding. And it's literally like just freeing your mind of thought and kind of bringing you into the now. It's
Right.
about living in the now, in the present, in the present. So I highly recommend it.
So, how would you suggest our listeners get started? Do you think doing a guided meditation class is a good way to get started? I know there's a lot of apps too available now on our phones that we can use, but
Hmm.
any any advice you would give to a listener who's just starting out?
I've used YouTube. So
Okay.
you can type in YouTube and say 5-minute calming meditation or 5-minute manifestation meditation. Like just start out with what your kind of like what your gut or your intuition is telling you. Like, what do I need right now? What would I like right now? Something that calms my mind, something that calms my body, or do I want to have something fun? Do I want to visualize? Because the visualization meditations are really fun too. Illness, you can meditate. When I was really, really sick, after I got COVID, I did meditations all the time about healing my body, talking to my body, healing my body. So I would just type in healing meditation 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. As I did more often, I could lengthen the time of the meditations. And sometimes I fall asleep, but even if you're receiving information during those meditations, it's still entering your subconscious. So they're super, super helpful. It just calms you
Yeah,
down.
I think I know a lot of people are so challenged with meditation because there's so many voices going on in our heads constantly, right? I could forget the statistic, but there's like thousands, right, of
Thousands. Yeah.
messages,
We we think like 66,000 thoughts a day or something like that. And
right?
so it's really like just like nope, nope, like just lowering that number down and saying like what am I going to focus on thinking? And that's what
Yeah,
meditation helps with. It's like okay, now I can focus on what I want to think about instead of what I'm automatically programmed to think.
all the noise. Yeah,
The noise
it's
that
the
we've
no
been programmed with, the noise that we've grown up with, the noise that cause our limiting beliefs, the noise that it's not really our own. We're not listening to our inner self or our inner voice. We're listening to all the other stuff that we've
yeah.
been so accustomed to thinking.
It's true. It's true. I mean, we all have those inner voices, don't we, that are negative and not something that I had a friend who had a phrase who also was very much into the law of attraction, which we'll talk about next. But he always said when a thought would come into his mind that he didn't care for, he would say, "Thank you for coming, but you're not welcome here."
I love
And
it.
so yeah, he would just he'd be like, "Thank you for coming." So it was still positive because he always wanted to stay in that positive, but you're not welcome here. And the thought would go away so that he could make room for something that was, more in line with what he wanted to be and get rid of those old, like you said, limiting beliefs that stop us from moving. And it's just fear, right? A
Yeah, it
lot of
becomes
that.
a pattern. It becomes a
Yeah,
pattern. We just live in patterns all of our lives until you
right,
break that pattern.
right.
That becomes when you're aware. That happens when you're aware of your thoughts. If you're not aware of your thoughts, there's nothing you can do. Like, really, I ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now? Do I want to
Yeah.
think this? And why am I
Right.
thinking it?
And the breaking of patterns takes practice, right? It doesn't just happen overnight.
Absolutely.
That's why
You know,
meditation is called a daily practice because you have to keep practicing it over and over again.
yes, yes. And then
Yeah,
it becomes a friend. It just becomes like part of you. Instead of a helpful tool, it just kind of becomes like just part of your routine, which
yeah.
is it is super calming. I love meditating.
So you said a couple of other things. You talked about manifesting and visualization. So I want to go back to those subjects. So tell me about how you would manifest something. How do you go about manifesting? Say you have a dream.
So
I know. Here's a perfect example. Tell the story of how you got your apartment because I think that's a great example of manifesting.
I had just moved to Panama. I moved into my parents' apartment. I was learning to know myself, reconnect with myself, my higher self, myself.
This
And
is
I
just
was
so the
living,
listeners know, just not to interrupt, but so our listeners know this is after your divorce and you're having what I like to call a midlife pivot. So
a
now you
Yeah, I call it a rock bottom. I hit rock bottom. I
Okay, you
really,
hit
really
rock
hit rock bottom.
bottom. I have a
Yeah.
positive spin, midlife pivot. Okay.
But that rock bottom is where I am, like, that helped me to where I am now, right? So we
Yeah.
need that chaos. We all have chaos. Everyone has had chaos in their lives, and our lives literally go up and down, up and down, up and down. Chaos and then good times and then and it's how do we get out of that chaos? But for me, this chaos during COVID was like I need to change my entire life. And I found myself moving back to Panama where I was born, and moving into my parents' apartment. They were older, and so I came down with like, okay, this is where I'm going to just kind of regrow and reroot myself and get to know myself again because I had just sort of lost. I was like the perfect victim of my life, and I didn't want to be the victim anymore. And I wanted to just have more control of my thoughts and myself and get to know me again. And I had moved into my parents' apartment, but my mom and I really, really clashed. So while I was kind of growing, she was like, oh, like that. So I said, I think I want to, and I had heard about this course. I started doing all the self-help books. I mean, everything. I submerged myself in anything and everything. And then there was this manifestation course that I was listening to this woman's podcast. She's a Spanish woman called Maite Isa, and she lives in Spain, and she has developed this huge business of doing manifestation courses. And I'm like, I want to manifest something. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this manifesting because I had manifested my divorce and not having money and all of that. So I knew manifestation would work, right? It's what we concentrate our thoughts on. So I did this course and it was really about what do we want? What do I want to work on? So we could work on like a whole bunch of things, but choose like one or two things that you really want to work on. So I'm like, I think I'm going to manifest moving into a different apartment. And with the money that I had from the divorce, I was like, okay, I might as well just say I want to go move into an apartment with an ocean view. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. So the exercises in this, which now are just natural, but it was like, what do you want? Why do you think you can't have it? So those are the limiting beliefs. So you got to start working on all of that. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I don't have money. I'm too depressed, like whatever, like all those limiting beliefs. And so you start working on all of those and say, well, why can't I have an apartment that has an ocean view? Like, who told me that I couldn't have that? And then really, really, and a lot of writing, because you're putting thought to paper, right? And then just kind of releasing it. And then I started writing about well, if I could have any kind of apartment, what would I want? What kind of apartment? Anything. Like, really, if you can have anything you want, I'm going to manifest an apartment that has an ocean view. It's something was telling me that I needed and I wanted to have an ocean view. And so at first I started seeing apartments like in my parents' building thinking, okay, I came down thinking that I had to take care of them. And so I started looking at apartments there and they were a disaster. But from there I got a realtor. So I said, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment with an ocean view. And so he's showing me around. And the more we saw apartments, I was like, okay, well, these are not working out. And then my dad fell. My dad had a really, really bad fall, and we were in the hospital. I was with him for 2 weeks in the hospital. He broke all his ribs. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to pause and just go back to it when I can, go back to looking for apartments when I'm through with, just being there for him. So when he came home, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to continue with the flow. And all this time just completely trusting in the process that I was going to find the apartment that I wanted. And I needed a furnished apartment because I was going to rent it. I came down to Panama with like a couple of boxes and a couple of suitcases and that was it. And so we got back into the flow of like looking for apartments, and my realtor finally shows me an apartment where we just kept getting further away from the ocean. Like, one apartment, like I had to kind of do this to, oh, there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little sliver. And then the last apartment that he showed me there, the balcony was tiny and they were building a building literally in front of the balcony. And I'm like, okay, this is definitely not, we're not going in the right direction. And I actually said that out loud. I said, I really want an apartment with an ocean view. And the realtor that was showing us that apartment with the building under construction, it's like, I just heard of one in another area called Coco del Mar in Panama. And I hadn't even thought about moving out here because it was a little bit further from my parents, but it's actually like a 5-minute Uber drive. And I and when she said, I think I heard about an apartment with an ocean view, and that was where like this voice of my intuition just said, I turned to Joe and I said, I want to go look at that apartment tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And he was sort of flabbergasted, like, because he's the one that was scheduling all the things. I'm like, I want to go look at that apartment at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I didn't ask how much it was. I didn't ask if it was furnished. The woman didn't really know very much about the apartment, but just something. My intuition just said, I mean, it took like 5 seconds. I'm like, I want to go look at that apartment. And then I show up in this building and I knew the realtor that was showing this apartment. We found out that we were in Washington, D.C. together at the same time,
Oh,
like in the 80s and 90s. And so instead of talking about the apartment, we were talking about like, oh, you knew my uncle. And yes, and we must have been at functions together, but we just had never met, we had never met. So the whole time, we're coming up the elevator, we're literally talking about that. And then I walk into the apartment and I turn to the right and I see that like just full on ocean view. And then I turned to her and I said, how many bedrooms? She says two. And she's like, and it's furnished. And how much is it? It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna figure out, I'll dwindle it down. Like I'm gonna bargain. I'm gonna bargain because I'm gonna live here.
right.
And the other thing that I had written about was how I was when you manifest, you write how it feels, right? So you write down how it feels as if you already have it, like truly, truly as if you already have it. Because the more you feel like you already have it, it becomes a memory. It becomes so real in your conscious mind that it's already happened, right? So the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, like just kind of tries to kind of catch up with you and say, we're going to deliver. And so one of the things that I had also written was like, okay, this is what it feels like to live in the apartment. And this is like my view. And this is my routine. This is what I do. And this is, who I have over. And I have a space for my kids to come and visit when they want to come visit and guests, still waiting for yours, visit. And this was the really cool part. And I am going to buy a white L-shaped couch. That's the one thing that I really want. I want a white L-shaped couch because I had just moved out of a divorce, with a husband and kids and so I was thinking I want white L-shaped couch. So when I came in, I said, "Can you move these couches somewhere else? Because I'm going to put a white L-shaped couch there." And so I did my little bargain thingy, and then a few days later, the realtor called me up with the owner, and she said, "We'd love to have you live here, and can you move in 2 weeks?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll move in 2 weeks." Again, going with the flow, just going with the
Yeah.
flow. I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I can do that. And then I came to sign the contract and a couple of days later. And so then it turned into like I'm moving in like a week and a half. And from signing the contract, my friend that was with me, we went to a furniture store to look for the white couch. And it wasn't at that furniture store. And there's a million furniture stores here in Panama City. And then the
Yeah.
second one that we went to, it was just a dark, rainy afternoon, rush hour kind of thing. But we both get out of the car and she's like, Maddie, she calls me Maddie. She's like, look, there's my white L-shaped couch on sale in front, like by the front door, like just like here it is for the price that I wanted to pay. I sat down. I raised my hand for the sales lady to come over. I said, I'm buying this couch. I want it delivered next week. Done deal. Like I've never bought a piece of furniture so fast in my entire life, but that was my couch. That was my couch. And a week later, I am in this apartment, which I've now been here for about a year and a half. And it's become, a beautiful sanctuary for me, a place to keep growing, to have my space, to have my privacy, walk around however I want to be dressed, do whatever,
Yeah.
eat when like, yeah, and just keep growing and growing and growing. And it's really brought me to a place now where I'm in a really, really good headspace and I have a good mindset. I know what's going on. I know what I'm thinking about. I know what I want to think about. I know what I don't want to think about. I know how to think. I've worked on all those limiting beliefs, all that. I don't know if we can curse here, but it's like all that schmuck or all that shit, that kind of thing, which we call density. And it's all that density, because our minds just, with the limiting beliefs, we're just so trained to think of fear and doubt and, unworthiness. And
Yeah.
we're not good enough. We don't have the money. I mean, all of that stuff,
Yeah.
rules, a lot of rules that we grew up with. And you've got to do it this way and you've got to do it that way. I'm like, no, no, no. I want to be a free thinker, a free spirit, free my mind, think about what I want and go with my flow and go with my flow. And a lot of people have questioned that, like, oh, you're going with your flow. And I'm like, I am absolutely going with my flow because my flow is
Hmm.
right now in the present.
You've become a master manifester. You have to give classes.
I just love it. I love it. And it's, I mean, manifesting also just becomes a part of our life all the time. It's, we change our thought pattern. When you change your thought pattern and you get out of that schmuck of self-doubt, which we all have, and I still have it, but it's more focusing on the positive. Like, how do I want a situation to turn out? And
Mhm.
why give any energy to something negative when I can give energy to something positive, a good outcome?
Yeah.
Why worry about the worst? Because that's really worrying is preoccupying your mind with worst case scenario. So am I going to stay stuck in that worrying pattern? Or do I say, no, I'm worrying and it hasn't even happened? But what I can control is right now, what I'm thinking about right now.
Right, but I think a lot of people that haven't, again, developed that muscle and that mindset, I think a lot of people look at obstacles rather than opportunities. And so I think that's where people get stuck. It's not necessarily even fear driven sometimes. I think it's when I think back on my own life, I guess my first obstacle was trying to go to college and how I was going to pay for it and how I was going to be accepted. And because I came from a poor family who there was no way they could have put me through school. So when I made the decision that no matter what, I was going to find a way to go to college, if I had not been so driven and not had mentors in my life to help me figure it out and fill out the forms and get me where I needed to go. I mean, honestly, there were a couple of mentors in my life that if they had not crossed my path when they did, I know my life would look very different. And so I was fortunate to have great teachers and people that guided me along the way. And I was also smart enough to recognize that I needed their help and that it was
Yes.
okay to ask for that help and then lean on them to get me to the next stage of life. So when I went away to college, there was definitely that obstacle of fear of how am I ever going to pay this back? Because I came from a place of lack and scarcity. That was my
Mm.
life. So then when you really have to have a strong belief in self to overcome that sense of less than, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
really have to say, you know what? No, no matter what, I will be able to pay this back or I'll be able to figure it out or I have the skill set in order to, overcome the challenge. And so, you know, but again, for me, it all comes to those connections and surrounding yourself with people that really believe in you when you don't often believe in yourself. So,
Just going back to it, you did manifest that because you said what you wanted,
right.
right? So you said,
Yeah.
I want to go to college. I
Yeah. And
want
I meant,
to go to this school. So that's
right.
where it starts. If you know what you want,
Uh,
then all of a sudden it's like the paths just kind of start opening up and the right people align, the timing aligns and you start kind of building up on that energy. It's like, oh wait, this is starting to happen. This is starting to happen. This is starting to happen. And then the fear becomes a tiny little bit less and less and less. We all live with some kind of fear, but again, we've been programmed to fear everything, to fear illness, fear lack of money, fear what we
yeah.
can't control. But it does start with asking, what do I want? What do you want? And so it's
Right.
you did it.
No, and I love that you point that out, but I will tell you at 16 years old, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, right? I mean, yes, now I can look back and say, back then the language would be I set a goal for myself and I achieved the goal, right? It wasn't manifesting. So manifesting is something that has come to me later in life. But obviously, as a child, those words weren't, words like manifesting and mindfulness and all of the stuff that we all are very aware of now were not words that were used in the early 80s. We didn't have a sense of awareness, I don't think, culturally, that we have today. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, awareness is now, I mean, people are becoming more aware, they're becoming more conscious, they're questioning
Yeah.
their lives, they're questioning their relationships, they're questioning what direction they're going to, what job they want to have. They're questioning their yeah, I think we're all doing that. Like what do I want? If I'm here right now and I have this one life to live in the present right now, what do I want? Do I concentrate on the bad stuff or do I concentrate on the good stuff? And if the bad stuff comes about, like the chaos, what we call chaos, how do we handle that? Working on those limiting beliefs. Like why did I grow? why do I think that I'm not worthy? Why do I think that I don't deserve this?
Mhm.
Where did that thought come from? And all of those limiting beliefs come from how we were raised because when we were born free spirits, completely free of thought. We wanted to just play, dream, create, draw, sing, jump, play. And then we're surrounded by society and all the people around us, our parents, our family, or, oh, no, you can't do that. And no, you can't do that. And you should do that. And you should study that. And you should go to that. That's what we get programmed with. And if you do this, that's going to happen. If you do this, it's be careful, be careful, be careful.
Well,
That's what limiting beliefs are. And if you're not even aware that you're thinking that way, then it becomes a really big pattern in your way of thinking. You hear the word cancer. Nope, that person's going to die. You hear, whatever. Like you're just assuming these things. So it's just getting rid of that. Why do I fear this? And I've had other times where, like, I have conquered that fear. I have been vulnerable and I have dared to do something different and think something different. And then the fear just kind of starts, you say, what am I thinking about? This is scary. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to give that thought more energy so that it turns into a reality.
well, let's talk about that if you don't mind me bringing it up, the crisis you went through with Ralph and when he went through his scare with brain cancer. And I mean, I remember when you got that news, obviously it was scary. It was a scary time. You had two young children at home.
Mm.
So
It was more shocking than anything else, like shocking. Yeah.
dark was the word. Okay. All right. So how did you get through that time as a family? Like, what did you draw on for strength then?
Well, we were surrounded by amazing people, a lot of spiritual people. So I think that's where my spirituality really began to kind of open up. So amazing, amazing support system. And the way that I handled it, and I think Ralph wanted to handle it the same way, is like let everybody know what's going on. We don't have to keep this a secret so that everyone is like, so we're surrounded by love. So we're surrounded by love and we're just going to take this one step at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time. Because if we would have believed his diagnosis, we would have just given in and he wouldn't be alive today. But he had stage 4 lung and brain cancer, 3 surgeries, 2 brain surgeries, but it was literally just one step at a time and surrounding ourselves with people that believed the same thing, that he's going to live, and not taking everything so seriously. Like when he began to lose his hair, it's like, okay, well, today we're going to shave your head,
Yeah.
or you're not feeling well from the chemo. Okay, let's figure that out, And our children, I think, just absorb a lot of that positive attitude that we had of, I mean, when we first heard the diagnosis, I think it took like a whole day to sort of say, that's not true. That can't be real. That cannot be real. That's like a doctor's voice saying his opinion. And we saw 3 different doctors when he was diagnosed. The first one told him, you're not going to live. Like you're like literally that day you're not going to live. The second one was like, well, we're going to try this surgery and you're going to be awake and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then the third one was the one that we found at Johns Hopkins. And this guy's like, oh, we're just going to go in there and we're going to remove that tumor and we're going to remove those cellular schmuck cells. And it did come back later on, but he just went in and said, we're just going to scoop out more cells, more of those cancer cells. And that's how we really dealt. It was just always staying super, super present, celebrating the milestones, celebrating the good stuff.
Yeah.
And when anything negative or bad happened, it was like, okay, well, we'll just deal with it. We'll just deal with it. But it was never giving in. It's like we never gave up. He never gave up. I never gave up. And I think our children kind of saw that as well. We just didn't give up. And the people that surrounded us were absolutely amazing. I mean, you threw a party for us. I don't know if you remember that, but you threw a party for us after we came back from his first brain surgery. And that was like pure love. That was absolutely pure love.
I remember
So we've
throwing
received
I remember the wood stacking. I don't know if it was so much of a party as, "We're gonna get this done for you because winter was coming and you needed the wood to, for the wood stove." So I remember, yeah, organizing that for you, so it wasn't something you all had to worry about when you got
that
back.
was that was
Yeah,
a monumental moment because we had come back from his first brain surgery late that night. My parents were watching our children. This is in Maine. And we had come back from Baltimore, from Johns Hopkins, late that night. And you had said, okay, we're doing this. We're going
yeah,
to do something. And I remember waking up a little bit later to a lot of noise outside. It was like August or July. And I remember raising the curtain, and all of our friends were outside stacking our wood, 3 cords of wood that was delivered in the front yard, that for Ralph and for us would take weeks to stack.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all of our friends are like lined up, and people that we didn't even know, were there too. All of our friends were just passing one log to another and another and another, and then it was done. It was done. And then you had a little get together at your house,
I
and that
get
was
choked up. Yeah.
huge.
I get choked up thinking back to that day because it was such a gathering of people. I didn't know a lot of them either. I don't know, you must have had 30 people there that showed up. I don't even remember how many people. It wasn't just that I'm getting emotional. It wasn't just even like we hadn't known each other that long when this all happened. And it wasn't just the adults. I mean, like little kids came. And so it was just such a great opportunity to show our children in that, like, what community meant and what it was like to be able to give back to people in need and just be there for one another, right? In times of crisis. And little did I know I would need it returned tenfold a few years later. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we've been through some tough
we've been
times
through
together.
we sure have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so you saw me through my divorce and then which was really hard as all divorces are, right? And then yeah, and then it was what, a year or two after that when Haley had her spinal stroke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was another one where, and I was recalling that actually today, how I remember I was here in Panama visiting my parents,
you were.
and June called me in Panama and said this happened to Haley, and we still don't know what's going on, but she's in Massachusetts at a hospital. And I was arriving like the next day. I think I was arriving, or 2 days later, and Ralph would drive down to Boston to pick me up, and we would drive back up to Maine. It was just easier that way. All the international flights flew out of Boston. And I said, we're going straight from the airport to the hospital. Like we're going straight to the hospital from the airport.
And you
And
did.
that's where we showed up, because there was no doubt that I wasn't going to be there. Like there was
I
like
know.
zero doubt. Like I didn't know if you were going to be there, but I just knew that I had to be there for you, that I wanted to be there for you, and for everything that you were going through, and for your uncertainty and everything. And again, that's my intuition. My gut was just like, I want to be there right now, like right now. And
But the
yeah.
way that you handled the situation was, Ralph, you were such a role model for me when this happened with Haley because you shared it so openly. And I was reticent to do the same because for the listeners that may not know, Haley is my daughter, and at age 12, she had a truly life altering and should have been fatal spinal stroke that left her unable to breathe. And it was a infarction on her spine between C3 and C5. And that's the area of your spinal cord that
Mhm.
controls your
Okay.
breathing. And so she was unable to breathe, controls your diaphragm rather. So she was unable to breathe, and we were being told that she had to be put on life support. Now, you have to understand that my only experience with anybody being put on life support was that both of my grandparents were put on life support. And once they were put on life support, they never came off. They died on life support. And they died in that hospital, Maine Medical. And so when they told me at 3 o'clock in the morning that, and here I am exhausted in, like you said, in shock and disbelief. And when they said, your daughter needs to be intubated, she's not going to make it through the night. I looked her in the eye and I said, you must be talking about somebody else because my daughter was just running track a few hours ago. Like my daughter is the, fastest girl on the team. My daughter is the goalie on her soccer team and she's the pitcher on her softball team and she's the most active kid I know and healthy, never been sick a day in her life, not even an ear infection. That's not possible that you're telling me now that she could die if I choose not to put her on life support. So you go through all those emotions and then I don't know what came over me, but I have to believe there's something greater than myself and God, or call it whatever you want. whatever your belief system is, but something told me that she needed to be transported to Boston. Now, again, we're in Portland, Maine at this time. And in my mind, I'm thinking spinal strokes are so rare that I need her to be in a city where the best of the best are, you know, doctors and they're performing miracles, right? The best of the best, in my mind, are in Boston. So we get her somehow. They had originally tried to get her a bed at Children's Hospital. There were no beds available. Again, by the grace of God, she ends up at Tufts Medical Center. And it turns out that the head surgeon at Tufts was related to one of Haley's best friends in Falmouth. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So she ended up getting personal attention and care, additional personal attention and care, because we had this family connection locally. It was bizarre. But anyway, she did get stabilized enough to be transported. And again, they pretty much said she can't breathe. She's got to be intubated. We cannot transport. It's not safe for her. And I was insistent. We get her in the ambulance. We get her down to Boston with a couple of doctors and myself in the back. As soon as we get to Tufts, we get the news that she has to be put, on life support. There's no other choice because she had just gone from bad to worse. And yeah, by that point, her dad and I were both there and we ended up signing away. You have to sign a form when somebody's being intubated. So we both signed and then we went to the waiting room and somehow Michelle and Florine were already there. And I don't know how they found out or got there so quickly, but we walked down the hall into the waiting room and both of us collapsed in their arms. And it was just a devastating moment as a parent to realize that you have to trust your child in someone else's hands now, and that there is nothing, it's the most helpless feeling in the world. There is nothing else you can do. It is up to God. It is up to these professionals that you hope have them, yeah. And then you showed up as soon as you could. And, that's what that Poplar Ridge Book Club was. I mean, everybody, June came down. I mean, people were just surrounding us just the same way they did with you a few years before, right? With so much love and so much care. And, I just, as any parent would want to be the one in the bed and not see your child go through that kind of pain. So, I mean, she was paralyzed from the neck down. And then I don't know if you remember, but I think by the time you got there, we had the diagnosis that she also had contracted sepsis and
Yes.
pneumonia. And June was there. June
Yes.
was there when she got sepsis. And the nurse says to me, if you don't know what it is, don't look it up. And I didn't know what it was.
You looked it up?
I didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
She goes, you need to trust us that we have this. But I told June, and June's like, oh my God, things keep going from bad to worse. And so I knew it wasn't good, right? And I've since found out how bad it really was. But anyway, again, by some miracle and the grace of God, she's with us and we got through it. But I guess we
Because
did.
all these beautiful little things started happening in her recovery. Like she never gave up, you never gave up, her dad never gave up, the people around her never gave up, and she continued
Yeah.
to be supported. Our whole community, our whole town came together for her. I mean, it was insane. Like the support was just crazy.
I know.
But it really was like it wasn't her time to go. It was her time to live through that chaos, as we all have chaos, as my
Yeah.
daughter is now going through her chaos.
Yeah.
And it's how do you grow out of that chaos? Like
Right.
you come out like on the other side of that chaos, whether it's a divorce or an illness or a death, or, those are all moments where the hardest part of our lives is where we grow the most.
Yeah.
If we don't give in to that, my life is over because this happened, then you say, okay, well, it takes some time. Obviously, it takes some time to recover, recollect yourself again. But it just teaches us. Every single person on this planet has had chaos.
Right.
We were, right?
Right. But
All
to
of it.
your Yeah, we all do it. But to your point, I look back and I think Haley had every right in the world to feel sorry for herself, and she never once did. Never one day did I ever hear her say, I'm ready to give up. I can't do this. And I know she felt it on some days when it was hard, because I'm telling you what, the rehabilitation for these people, if you've ever known anybody that's had any kind of spinal cord injury or any disability, let me tell you what, these people fight harder than anybody I've ever seen. And living in that hospital at Spalding and watching these people try to reclaim movement, the things that we take for granted every single day, watching how hard it is. Like some of these people can't get out of bed, but they're fighting every single day to regain movement and regain their muscles. I'm like, jump out of bed in the morning and I don't think twice about it, right? And when you see people that are grateful despite it all, in spite of the challenges that they're going through, and they're still putting a smile on their face and they're showing up and they're working so damn hard. I mean, you as a bystander and an observer, you can't help but feel like, damn, I am so lucky and so grateful for the people that surround us and visited us. And I mean, Julia, your daughter, came down and played guitar for her one day. I don't know if you remember. She sang
Oh,
for us
yeah, I remember that. That was amazing.
this
Yeah.
singer. Just day after day, there would be this blessing and that just gave us hope, right? And when the town did what they did, it just made you realize that you are making an impact on people's lives that you're not even aware of. Like it blew my mind. It was so life changing in so many ways. And I'm so grateful that, I think of the people that didn't have the outcome that we were blessed with, because a lot of people don't get a second chance, right? And they lose their child young. And I think, I'm glad I don't spend a lot of time on this, but I think if that had happened, I don't know that I could have survived that at that time of my life. Because I was in such a rough spot, having just gone through the divorce and opening the restaurant and being broke, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
beyond broke.
let's give you more. Let's just give you more chaos. Yeah.
Let's throw this on top, because I was already like, yeah, it was a really, really rough year for sure. But to your point, you have to take away from that, I always said to people, you can't change the hand you're dealt, right? You've got to play the hand you're dealt in life. And like you said, everyone has messes. We have messes, we have milestones. We all do. And so you just have to play the hand that you're dealt to the best of your ability, right?
It's all here to test us.
Yeah.
It's how do we handle the test? We're
Yeah.
we're constantly being tested. So how do we handle that? Do we handle that in a grounded way, or do we actually go to worst case scenario?
Yeah.
It's how do we handle it? And what you said, that magic word of gratitude, like every little thing, like, okay, well, hey, this went well today. She was able to take 2 steps today without the walker, or like, hey, that's
Right.
great. Or hey, this chemo with Ralph, like we got through this chemo and that was great. So it's being constantly being in gratitude of any tiny little thing that happens. And that's not just in illness, in life itself, everything in life. Like, I thank every time I go to bed, like I thank my bed, I thank my pillow, I thank the food that I eat, I thank the apartment, I thank my view. I live in gratitude for everything that I do have. And they're not, like, not so much the material stuff, is like just like the space. And so when you're constantly giving thanks, that's
Yeah.
that's that's what you're going to keep receiving, right? Because you're attracting. We go back to that law of attraction. You
Yes.
attract what you feel. You attract, and your feelings come from your thoughts. So when you start
Yeah.
really working on those thoughts and you start vibrating at this frequency where it's just a higher frequency of all those higher feeling emotions, happiness, gratitude, hope, which I say having only positive expectations, faith, trust, laughter, like all of those are high vibrating feelings. And so when you're feeling that way, you're attracting that. Like, you're just going to get more of that. But if you're
Mm.
thinking, oh, this person's going to die, they're probably going to die. If you're thinking this person's going to die, they're probably going to die. Or I'm going to be late for work, you're probably going to be late for work.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to run out of money. And that's all you think about. It's happened to me. I ran out of money. I manifested looking at my bank account and saying it's going to be less and less and less every time I open it. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
As opposed to manifesting an apartment where I felt like I already had it and I deserved it, me, and that's what I attracted. The law of attraction literally is you are attracting what you are thinking and feeling.
Yeah, you
So
receive what you believe. That's what I
you
say. You
receive,
receive, yeah,
absolutely,
what you
absolutely.
believe.
Trusting that even if it doesn't happen at the exact time that you think it's going to happen, because we can't control everything. We can plan for things, but we can't control every single outcome. We can't control every single outcome. And so that teaches us to go with the flow, stay in the moment, stay in the present, and just trust that it's going to be okay.
Well,
Trust that something else
that's
is going to come out.
That's an important point that you're making because we all want to control it. And you're right, trusting in the process and letting go and surrendering. I mean, it's really hard for us to do, right? So I think I love that you just said that because that's an important piece of the whole thing. You can want something so badly. And a lot of times, I'll give a perfect example. All my life, I've wanted to write a book, all my life. And I can't tell you how many books I have started and stopped and then I start something else. And a lot of the reasons that they're not finished is because I have so much self doubt. The messages in my head are, what do I have new to say that's important? Why would anybody want to hear anything I have to say? What value am I going to bring? What's different than anything else that anybody else has ever said, right? Who is Sharon Stevenson and why does it matter? So there's been all these, and I'm always like, well, somebody else can say it better, right? So there's always been this roadblock for me about writing a book. And then I finally it is coming out on September
And
9th,
it's
and
huge.
it's
You had a
bigger
lot to
than I
say.
expected, but this is a life's work, though. It ended up being a compilation of just not only the podcast, which, by the way, this is our 50th episode, and I'm so excited that I'm sharing it with you, and we're
Thank
sharing
you.
all the vulnerable moments. But, I think when I think about this book, I was surprised when I printed about how thick it is, actually. But it goes over the arc of connection throughout our lives. And it's really, I say it's from the womb to tomb because it talks about how connection really starts in the womb. The sperm and the egg have to meet. And it's a miracle that that even happens, right? The likelihood of it happening is so small that the fact that it happens at all is a miracle. So anyway, that happens. And then, then you're all of a sudden you're tethered to the umbilical cord and there's always this theme of connection throughout our lives. And what happens when we don't. And I referred to a story. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I refer to the story. I think it's Louis Zamperini, who was a prisoner of war
Unbroken.
veteran and yeah, and unbroken. And I talk about how some prisoners of war, really struggle because the very worst thing that you can do to anybody is put them in isolation. And when they're in a camp and they're put in those prison or camp or whatever, when you're put in isolation, it's hard for you people start to hallucinate. It's hard for you to survive in that environment mentally, physically. So that's why I wrote the book, because the connection that we're having on the podcast and the connections that we need throughout life, it's biological. It's so ingrained in who we are, and it's not something that we talk enough about. And again, in the book, I refer to the fact that we are more connected than ever with all this technology. And yet, right now, isolation is an epidemic in this country. We are more disconnected than we've ever been. And to me, that's scary. So I'm hoping that I can make some meaningful impact. And I'd like to speak. So here I am, I'm manifesting. This is what I want to do. I'm
Hmm.
putting it out there to the universe. I
Hmm.
want to speak at middle schools and high schools because I believe in early intervention. And I want those kids that feel like they're not seen to be seen and to be heard and to
I love
realize
it.
that their life value.
I
I
love
think
it.
it's so important that it starts at an early age because I want people to realize what's happening in that school environment. It is a small piece of the rest of their lives. And those people that are at that school may or may not be in their lives after high school ends, and that their uniqueness is their gift, not their punishment. So
I love it.
that's what I'm hoping to bring to the world with this book.
Yep.
I really
Yep.
want this.
Well, keep
Yeah.
keep saying what you want, and for manifesting. So we eliminate the word need, because need implies lack of. So like, I need more money. I need a car. I need this. Like that just implies, as far as like vocabulary, like
Yeah.
that implies that you don't have it, and so that's what you're going to keep getting more of, right? You're going to get more of lack of. But when you say I want this to I want, and then you start And when you use the word want, you actually start visualizing yourself. Like you just said it like right now, and you changed like right in front of me. Like you pictured yourself there. It
Yeah.
starts becoming a memory, right? Like, so I want to be on podcasts, and I've been saying this for a while, and I'm like, and then you call and you're like, you want to be on my podcast on Thursday? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but it's wanting. Wanting versus needing, right? Like it's a big difference in the two words. And so really working on that vocabulary and that self-talk and what we say out loud. What we say
Mm,
out loud is super, super, super important. Like, say it with like compassion and truth, and like, you want something, like, I want that. Like, I really want that, you know? And all of
yeah.
a sudden you start picturing yourself in that space or in that opportunity, and then you let go of the how,
Right.
and you just trust that you're going to gain clarity at the right time, and everything happens with divine timing. Everything happens with
Well,
divine timing.
and I love the define timing piece too, because I think the things that stopped me before in writing the books, the fear, all the doubt that I had, this one has felt from the very beginning as so important. Like, it's weird. It's like all of a sudden everything is coming to me that I need. That's why I think it's so big. There's been so much information that's
So
just
much
coming
download.
to me.
Yeah. So
There's
much
so much
downloads.
that the universe is just sending me these messages and signals
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yep.
And so when the concept came, I'm like, it's too important not to share. Like, I feel like it's a message that needs to be heard. And so because of that, it's not about, I've taken myself and my ego out of it. This isn't about me. It's about sharing a message that people really need to hear. So that's the difference. Before it was about me. Before it was about, am I going to be judged? Before it was, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? Now it's not. It has nothing to do with me. Read it or don't read it, but I promise you, it's going to make a difference.
And you're
So
a great
that's,
writer. You're a great
thank,
writer. And you
thank
have.
you.
It's amazing how you've been working on it for so long.
So long.
Remember, you sent me like the first few chapters, or like the first chapter, and I'm like, go
Yeah.
for it, go for it, go for it. But until you found your worth, your own self-worth and your own self-love. Without self-worth or self-love, you can't give love. Like, if I don't have love for myself, I can't give proper love. If I'm not worthy and I don't feel worthy, then I'm just going to keep receiving more situations where I don't feel worthy. So it's really working on that self-love first and foremost, and then start saying, I am worthy. I do
Yeah.
deserve this. I can do this. I
Right.
am. I am intelligent. I am strong. I am awesome.
It is critical. I think, it's challenging, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, so I'm going to bring it up. It's challenging so a couple of years ago, I did real estate, right? I still have my license here. And then I was like, oh, now I'm going to be a travel agent. Okay, well, now I'm going to be a wellness coach. Okay, now I'm going to start a podcast. Now I'm going to write a book. So I think that, you start to hear people like, oh, what's Sharon up to now? You start to hear those voices of people that are critical of you, or they're judging what you're doing.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't
I'm like,
matter.
but what I realize now is every single one of those things that I was interested in had a purpose. So it wasn't that
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. It was that, well, you know what? Maybe the travel agent piece is going to lead me to doing book retreats. Who knows? Who knows where that's going to go? But I needed to learn that. Being a health and wellness coach has given me a better understanding of longevity and health in general, right? So that's been a part of this book. And that led me to the importance of connection. So, it's just all of these little pieces that don't seem to make sense at the time. Like, why are you going in all these different directions? What does that have to do with anything? Have all led me here. And that's what is like, I get chills thinking about it, because I didn't know where it was going. I still don't know where it's going, but I'm still doing the work.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I call those breadcrumbs. So
Okay.
the universe, God, whatever you call, the higher self, because we're all just a soul living here in this body, and we're all part of something, right? And so I call those breadcrumbs. And so throughout our lives, so now we're in our 50s, right? But our children haven't had as many of that schmuck stuff that we have, so they have less to process. So that's why my daughter's going to get through her cancer diagnosis. That's why Haley got through her, you know,
Stroke, yeah. Stroke, yeah.
all that stuff. That I mean, so much more than just the stroke. It was so much more.
Yeah.
But look where she is now. She's shining. My daughter is handling her cancer diagnosis like super, super well, and she's impacting a million people around her, and everyone's handling it with like such beauty and love. And that's what she's receiving, and that's what keeps her vibrating at a higher frequency. But all of these things that show up in our lives, when you start adding up your life, and you're like, you know what? I do remember that. So that was the universe throwing you a little breadcrumb, right? It's like Hansel and Gretel. Like here's another little breadcrumb, and here's another little breadcrumb, and
Oh,
okay,
I
maybe
like
it's
that.
this way, maybe it's that way, or maybe we're supposed to learn a little bit from here and a little bit from there. But that's what I call breadcrumbs. Is like, wait a second, I saw that breadcrumb about 10 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
that's where it came from. I bought us. I don't know if I was telling you. I can't remember. I was talking about this yesterday. That I had that sweatshirt. I've had a sweatshirt for a couple of years that says "Free your mind, free your soul," and I just bought it because it just resonated with me at the time, and I liked the sweatshirt. When I took it out the other day, I'm like, it really, really is that. Free your mind. And when
Yeah.
you said to me, let go of the ego, like just let go of those automatic thought patterns, because we go to those thought patterns so automatically.
Mhm.
But if we're aware that we're going to those thought patterns, then we can work on them. If you're
Mhm.
not aware, then you're just stuck. You're just stuck, and
Yeah.
you can't work on anything. Like, why do I feel this way? Why am I so scared? Why, it's just being aware, and then once you gain awareness, it enters your consciousness, and that's what we want to be. We want to be like super conscious of how we live our lives every moment of the day. And when it becomes so natural, you don't have to think about it so much.
So would you say awareness and mindfulness are the same thing?
I don't know. Aware is knowing what you're thinking.
Mhm.
Mindfulness is very much along the same lines.
It's more intentional, right? It's having intention, I think.
Yeah, we want to be able to think what we want to think instead of
Yeah.
being on automatic. I was comparing something like that where say so when cars have horns, and I live in a city now, right? So cars have horns, and you get that one person that just like, and they're affecting everyone around them, not just the car in front of them, but everyone around them. For whatever reason, they're honking that horn because they're in a bad mood. They're throwing out some kind of aggression, but everyone around them is like, reacting, right?
Yeah.
That's a person that's just doing it without even thinking. So I would say that that person is not aware. I would say that that person is not mindful of what they're doing or how their action is creating this ripple effect around all the people and all the cars around them. So
Mm.
yeah. So mindful is like maybe filling your mind with good thoughts, filling your mind with positive thoughts. Because if you can control what you can think, live
Yeah.
purposely, think purposely,
Right.
think purposely,
And be
because we can go
present.
down a rabbit hole.
I feel like if I had one piece of advice for people, it would be like, put the phones down. Like, there is nothing that drives me crazier than when we're at dinner and everybody puts their phones on the table. Like, put your phone in your pocket and be present with the people that have decided they want to spend this time with you.
Absolutely. I
Be
know
present.
it is amazing when you see like a couple on a date and they're both looking at their phones. Yeah. Yeah.
It's everywhere. I mean, you go to an airport now and you look around an airport, and there was a day when you could talk to somebody else in the airport, right? Make a new friend. Nowadays, everyone is like facing the phone. So, same way, I mean, yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere you go. So,
Yeah.
that would be my hope that eventually we get to a place where we're not so attached and we don't have this sense of immediacy and expect responses right away. It's a
Well,
you and I grew up with a phone on the wall where you had to be like, if you weren't there,
yeah.
you the call,
You missed
right?
the call.
Missed
But
the
what
call.
I've realized is that, like Instagram, the news, you're listening to other people's opinions constantly, other people's opinions,
That's true
right?
too.
So that gets you out of your own head.
Yeah.
And then you're judging, comparing,
Mhm.
assuming, that this person is posting like, oh, I went to this wonderful restaurant and, look what I ate. And like, oh, so, and okay, but I didn't go there. Like, do I need to know that that person went to that restaurant and ate that lobster or whatever?
Right.
We get into that assuming part and thinking that everybody else has a better life than us. And so another, this is like another tool that is used to sort of, bring our worthiness down. And the
Well,
same thing
and
with the news.
yeah, and to your point, I mean, sometimes I'll scroll through social media and I'll see friends posting something that I wasn't invited to or wasn't included to. Now, I'm almost 60 years old. Do you think I should
There you
care?
go.
I should, who the hell cares? But I'll look at it and go, oh, why wasn't I invited?
I unfollowed. I unfollowed. I unfollowed. You could just tell when someone is posting, like, why they're posting something. You can tell. So I started unfollowing like everything that triggered me. Everything that I just unfollowed. I stopped watching the news during COVID. I don't watch the news. I choose how I get informed about the news, but I don't focus on the news because I can't go and save a country. I can't
Right.
go and do, but what I can do is I can focus my energy and my good thoughts on better outcomes and
Yep.
use my energy and my frequency and my love to offer that. But when we're constantly being bombarded by other people's news and other people's opinions that have nothing to do with my soul, with myself,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Well, and the truth is, I mean, even when you see something that doesn't look, that might trigger you on social media, it really has nothing to do with you anyway. You make up,
nothing.
you're making up some story that, like you said, it's something that's triggered inside of you. That has nothing to do with you. It has to do with you, your reaction to it. So, yeah, that's not a fun realization, but it is a mirror for you to look at what's going on with
Everything is a
yourself.
mirror. Everything is a mirror. Everything's a
Yeah,
mirror. Yeah.
it is, right?
It really is. Life reflects what you think about. Life
Yeah.
attracts what you think about. And so getting into a mindset where even if you have worst case scenario, of somebody's, illness or death, it's like, okay, this is happening, but like it's not happening to me, it's happening to that person. And how can I best help that person through this situation to have a peaceful experience with all of this? That's what I can contribute.
Yeah, I
Just
love.
more peace of mind, and more positives. And yeah, like just yesterday, my daughter, with Julia, like Julia, she's 28. She just got diagnosed with thyroid cancer and she's going to have a surgery at some point. I'm just waiting to hear word when it's going to happen. But my experience with this, which has really, really taught me to go with the flow, is I have packed my bag 2 times already. And as the 2 weeks, it's now been 2 weeks. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to go visit her and be with her at her surgery, okay, I'll take out the shorts because I'm not going to be wearing the shorts. And then she says, well, so she got engaged last year to her boyfriend of 7 years. Now they've been together 8 years. And through all of this and all of the love that she has received from everyone in her life, including all her friends, because Julia's just always been a giving, giving, giving. So she's receiving all this love back. And they decided to get married. And they went to the courthouse yesterday and got married yesterday morning.
Oh, and I have to tell you, this is what makes you so special to me, that even though we are no longer geographically in each other's lives, we make a point to still celebrate each other's milestones. We know that in a minute, if you needed me to meet you in DC and help with Julia, that without even a question that I would meet you there and be there and put you first. And I know the same for me. I know if I ever said to you, hey, I'm going through a really tough time and I really need you to be here, I know you would be on the next plane. So that is something so special and so rare that you could probably say that maybe about a handful of people in your life. And I love that you and I have that bond even now after all this time,
I mean, I
right?
think I've always been drawn to you. I've always been drawn to your strength. I've always been drawn to your courage. Been drawn to you jumping out of an airplane and buying a restaurant like that, and all these amazing steps that you've taken in your life, and I admire that. I admire strong women that have gone through their stuff and still kept going and going and going. Those are breadcrumbs, right? Those are the friendships that I've always been attracted to, and I've always told you this. Like I've admired the heck out of you, even through your darkest moments, where I've seen you,
At
you
the
know,
darkest
in,
moment.
I've seen you in your darkest moments, and I was there because I wanted to be there. I wanted to be
I
there.
tell people curled up in a ball on a kitchen floor, I think was one of
That
my was one of my
that
darkest
was a
moments.
movie. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
movie.
that was
Yeah.
a rough one.
Yeah. Literally in the corner and yeah, you just fell
Yeah,
into the floor. Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah,
know,
but
there's
that was
been
like a breaking point, that was like you needed to have that breaking point to say, "Okay, what's the next step?" Because you've got to emotions, you do need to experience and feel the emotion. You can't just like say, "I'm not sad," or "I'm not," or "This is scary." Like just acknowledge it. Acknowledge it and say, "What am I going to do with this? Am I going to stay with this emotion that's causing me lower energy, lower frequency, lower thoughts? Do I want to stay there in that stuff or do I want to, no. Like
no,
if I can control what I'm gonna think, no.
you gotta walk through it.
You
Some of
gotta
that
walk
stuff
through it,
yeah, you just have to walk through it and get to the other side.
and it's
So,
awesome when you get to the other side. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I felt the same about you. You have the biggest heart of anybody I know. You're just a shining light in my life, and I love you
Oh,
dearly.
I
So let
love you
me ask
dearly.
you one final question because we have to wrap it up. What advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of work on my inner child. I've done a lot of meditations on my inner child because that's where the schmuck comes out, at the beginning, and just letting her know it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. I'm with you. Your future self is with you. I'm with you. I talked to her, in these wonderful exercises that I've done, a few times through the manifestation course, through a couple of other places, and it's just saying, "You're gonna be okay, you're worthy, you're worthy,
Yeah,
you're worthy," was the
that's
biggest
beautiful.
one.
Yeah. And you are better than okay, right?
Thank you.
And you're
Yeah,
doing
I
great.
mean, I'm going through my chaos, but I'm handling it in such a different way. I've really let go of needing to know, like, exactly when things were gonna happen and just say, "I'm going with my flow." And every time that I go with my flow, amazing things happen.
Yeah.
Amazing things happen, right? I'm really, really trusting. I have a lot of faith. I'm just like in this flowing and receiving kind of energy and staying so present, and so conscious that yeah, I don't get ahead of myself anymore. If I plan something, that's fine, but I don't think of what the outcome is going to be. I don't think of like how I'm going to control the situation because it never happens the way you think you're going to control it, uh, ever. And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to flow and I'm going to trust and I'm going to trust that my daughter's handling it beautifully. I'm
Love
trusting
that.
that she's surrounded by love and that I'm going to be there at the right moment when she needs me the most. And when I'm there, supposed to walk, whatever little path I may have to walk with her whenever she might have. But I know now that she's married to like the love of her life, and that gives me such comfort. But I know that out of this crazy situation, this shocking situation that we've been going through for the last week and a half or 2 weeks, I think it was like, okay, this is what I'm seeing is that this is bringing out love in everyone involved,
Yeah.
everyone involved. And Julia being the first example, me being an example, her fiance, now Ben's mom is now we're now related, I guess. In Spanish, it's consuegra, consuegra. So now we're psyched that we're like, because she's one of my best friends. My now
Oh,
son-in-law as of yesterday, when I go to Washington, I stay with his parents and his mother, Nancy, and I are super, super close. We're like sisters, just really good friends. So it's just this beautiful union of like all these beautiful moments of love and yeah, just love and
yeah.
light, like love and light. And then in the middle of all that, there was also I was going to go to DC for an engagement party, which now turns into like a small wedding party. And they're still planning a wedding for next year, like a real wedding with the dress and the
Yeah.
whole party and all that. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, just trusting, having faith and using the word hope as having only positive expectations and not,
Yeah.
throwing it to the wind.
Well, you've raised 2 very strong children in Julia and Jack,
Well,
and
you have
I would
too.
say that I'm praying for Julia, but I know she's going to be okay because I am going to send her all my positive energy and my love as well, and huge congratulations that you now have a bonus son in your son-in-law.
I do. Like I have a son and like what the heck?
Oh, your family's gotten bigger, and I love how it all happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great to witness and be part of. So I celebrate
Thank
all
you.
the wins with you again, and will always be there
Thank
for
you.
you in the hard times as well. So as you know, and I love you dearly.
I love
And
you
with that,
dearly.
I have to say, peace out, everyone.
Peace out. I can't wait to see your book, by the way.
Thanks.
All my love to you.